Just 6 months after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, the Battle of Midway was considered a pivotal turning point in the U.S. winning World War II. Joining me with more on the new film about the battle is my guest, Scott McGaugh of the USS Midway Museum. And Scott, let's start with this 90-seat theater now. Where is it, and why have a theater on a battleship?
Well, I tell you, it's on the hangar deck, right at the entrance to the museum. It has been 5 years in the making, and the reason why it exists, Peggy, is because we listened to our guests. They asked whether Midway was at the Battle of Midway. In fact, it was named for the Battle of Midway at the end of World War II and actually missed the war by a week. Voices of Midway really tells the story of 6 minutes that changed the course of the war in the Pacific, and this is our opportunity to preserve that legacy of the greatest generation for future generations.
And you know, I called it a battleship mistakenly. It is an aircraft carrier.
Indeed.
I do know that. How unusual is it to have a theater on an aircraft carrier?
It's the only one that we're aware of. It took us a long time, longer than it took to fight World War II, actually, to get it all put together. Back in the 1940s, they weren't anticipating when they built Midway that we would have a contemporary theater. So there was a great deal of restoration work, preparation work done by volunteers, San Diegans, to make the theater possible.
And now this film, as you say, Voices of Midway, the title of it is about the battle on request from visitors. How is this film different than other films about the Midway?
It is very much focused on the boiler tenders, the stewards, and not just the aviators, the young 19 and 20-year-olds who weren't just above in the skies, but down below decks, who fought and sacrificed so much. It's told from their perspective. In addition, it's a 14-minute film that blends holographic narrators. So Admiral Chester Nimitz is going to walk out in the audience, if you will, as part of the story. So it's very personal. It's very, very emotional. And
I understand producers use letters and interviews from World War II veterans who fought in the battle. Let's take a look.
That day at Midway, 6 minutes changed the world.
Aye, aye, Captain. We'll do whatever we can to keep her in the fight.
Tell them how hard we're all working and that you love them.
Commander Waldron, get your nose up!
That day at Midway, 6 minutes changed the world.
So some historic footage that we saw there. Now, the USS Midway was not actually in the Battle of Midway, but it was named after it. Some of the museum's docents, I understand, are veterans of World War II. What is their reaction to the film?
They are inspired by it. They are so dedicated to preserving, again, the legacy of all those who serve across all wars and conflicts and in between wars. And for them to be able to share in an even more personal way, some of them are World War II veterans. What they remember, what was for them yesterday. With young men and women today, boys and girls, future generations, they're inspired, they're humbled, sometimes emotional.
Okay. The Midway Museum is recently ranked among the top museums in the country. Why do you think it continues to attract so many visitors every year?
Our docents. Midway is a very interactive, personal experience. It's not something where you stand back and look at things. You get into aircraft and get into cockpits. You talk with docents who were there, who flew off the flight deck in Vietnam or even shortly after World War II. So it's a very interpersonal, family-oriented approach to a museum, and we took that same approach in the theater. Instead of a History Channel version of statistics and hardware, it's all about the people.
So if you could just name for us, for people who haven't been, a few of the exceptional exhibits or walking through as you're walking through what is an enormous ship.
It is. It was the largest ship in the world for a decade. Average length of stay now for our visitors is about 4 hours because we're still adding things literally every year. But to explore an engine room, many decks below water, and listen to a docent explain what life was like down there, to explore a city at sea, 4,200 19-year-olds on average, operating a city so that the pilots could fly. And then, of course, the flight deck. You've got to spend some time up there. It really is a remarkable experience.
Well, so much to see. Scott McGaugh, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I want to let folks know that the documentary Voices of Midway is now showing aboard the new Battle of Midway Theater aboard the USS Midway. Admission to the film is included in museum ticket prices. For more information, go to kpbs.org.